Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. My name is Fitri Nurzakiah Fuadi, and I'm a master's student in elementary education in Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. Well, in this video, I'm going to present about my article entitled "The Mastery of Grade 4 of Elementary School Students' Concepts on Energy Through the Implementation of the Radek Learning Model." The first, I would like to describe the introduction. Conceptual change has been the focus of research for decades. The results show that difficulties in understanding scientific concepts are experienced by students at various levels. And most reason is that they tend to build cognitive structures based on surface features. Besides, the ability to master concepts is not transferred by their teachers, so they must build them themselves. Well, one topic of science that is considered difficult to understand is about energy. Many abstract concepts make elementary students experience misunderstandings related to the topic of energy, especially the subtopic of renewable and non-renewable energy sources. On the other hand, with a lack of understanding of energy, students' awareness of the application of renewable energy is low. Therefore, scientifically proper teaching about the concepts of energy is very important to carry out. In the practice of teaching concepts, teachers need to choose and implement a learning model that suits the objectives to be achieved. The selected learning model needs to equip students with various competencies holistically, which does not just teach concepts. Next, one teaching model that is oriented towards mastering concepts and developing students' competencies holistically is the Radek model. The Radek model was first published by Sopandi in 2017, which involves read, answer, discuss, explain, and create. This model was developed based on the objectives of national education, the condition of education in Indonesia, and based on the theory of constructivism. Thus, Radek can be a new alternative learning model that aims to help students to gain many useful competencies, including to help students understand many scientific concepts in limited time. There has been many different types of tests to measure the level of mastery of the concepts. One of them is 4-tier test. And these 4-tier tests can measure students' conceptions that has been widely used to uncover misconceptions in high school students and prospective teachers. However, the use of the 4-tier test is still quite rare in uncovering elementary students' conceptions. Then, the purpose of the study was to determine the profile of students' mastery of concepts on the topic of energy before and after the implementation of the Radek learning model. The importance of this research is because students' mastery of concepts is identified using the 4-tier test that can simultaneously determine the students' reasoning. Okay, the next is the method. In this research, I used pre-experimental design with a group of pre-test and post-test. This method is used to explore changes in the results of the pre-test before the intervention and changes in post-test results after the intervention. All participants consisted of 20 students, all of whom were grade 4 students, and the learning process was carried out virtually using Google Classroom. Well, the test instrument used was the 4-tier test. This test consists of 4 questions. First is questions about the main concept. Second is the level of trust connected to the first level. Third is the reason for the selection of answers at the first level. And fourth is the level of trust connected with the third level. The content validity of each test item was carried out by 6 experts, and the results show that the test instrument was valid for use since the value of its content validity ratio was 0.94. Meanwhile, the reliability of the test was calculated by Cronbach alpha, with the acquisition of the coefficient was 0.76. And the students' consumption level was analyzed based on the Gural's answer pattern. Alright, now we come to the result and discussion. The section has two explanations. They are about the result of the pretest and the result of the post-test. Firstly, I will explain to you about the result of pretest. Well, the pretest was done before the students started learning energy using the Radek learning model. And based on the table, it was known that the level of misconception appeared most dominant among the other conception levels. Students experienced the most conceptions about the problem of changing forms of energy. And misconceptions on students can occur because they have their own conceptions before knowing scientific theories. Meanwhile, on the results of the pretest, some students already had scientific concepts before learning about energy was carried out. And students achieved the most scientific concepts on the problem of how to conserve fuel use. This showed that each student had a different conception of the concept of science. And the students' conception are formed because they build their conception of knowledge based on their daily experience. And then the second is the result of the post-test. Well, the post-test results were obtained after students completed energy learning using the Radek learning model. And based on the table, it was known that there are still students who were at the level of misconception, even though they had experienced the intervention through the Radek learning model. And the students still experience misconception on the indicators of the use of alternative energy sources, sources of electricity generation, changes in the form of energy, and changes in the form of energy from water to electrical energy. And misconceptions often occurred despite remedial intervention because student thinking frameworks are difficult to change and difficult to correct. After learning, there were no students at the level of lack of knowledge. On the other hand, the level of student conception after learning using the Radek model was dominant at the level of scientific concepts. 83.3% of grade 4 students had reached scientific concepts on the topic of energy. The highest percentage of student scientific concepts lied in the indicators of the problem of changes in energy form. The percentage increase in scientific concepts shows that students' non-scientific conceptions can be revised toward scientific conception through learning activities. The Radek learning model was considered suitable for building student scientific conceptions. This is supported because in its implementation, the Radek learning model requires students to actively think scientifically in understanding concepts. As the conclusion of this research, I can say that each student has their own conception before starting the meeting in the class. And based on the results of the pretest, it was identified that students experience misconceptions on all indicators of energy. And the highest misconception occurred in indicators of the problem of changes in energy from. And after being given an intervention using the Radek learning model, more than 83% of the students' conception level on the topic of energy was at the level of scientific conception. And students who before learning were at the level of lack of knowledge and misconception could reach the level of scientific concepts after Radek learning was carried out. Thus, the Radek learning model could help students build scientific conceptions in the topic of energy. Okay, I think that's all for this presentation. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that what I have shared can be beneficial for all of us. Thanks.